Hey y'all, as promised, here is my take on the Holy Trinity. So, as you can see right over here, the Holy Trinity, there is something to this number, this three being the number of completion. And it shows up in lots of different spiritual traditions and religions and just ways and cultures of being in the world. So I think that there's something to this idea of three becoming one, or this paradoxical, all three of these are simultaneously 100% true. Paradoxes is actually another thing that I could do a whole thing on. I love the idea of paradoxes, and I think that that's where it's at. But we're going to stick to our threes for tonight. So the first aspect of the divine, if that's the way you want to say it, is infinite. So this translates directly to God as Father in the Christian Holy Trinity. So this infinite is the big, vast, all that is thing, right? It is the omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, omnibenevolent. It is that thing that is just so much more than anything we could possibly fathom. And as we get further into spiritual mind treatment, you'll find that this shows up in step one of spiritual mind treatment. It is the recognition that God is all there is. So it's when we say things like, it is the infinite, absolute, and eternal. It is the universe, the multiverse, and beyond even that. It is that which is so much more than we with our finite minds can fathom. And then we get over here to, let's see, I want to go across to right here, the individualized. So this is God as me, God as you. This is our personal experience of being the divine. And this was the Son in the Holy Trinity, the traditional Christian Holy Trinity. So it is Jesus the Christ. And so in Science of Mind, we don't believe that Jesus was a divine being any more than anybody else is a divine being. He was rather the great example. He was an example of what a human being that fully recognizes and knows that they are God and that God is all there is can do in life. And that's what he was here to teach us. He was here to be an example. He said, all these things he shall do and more. So anyways, back to this individualized. This is God incarnate as each and every one of us. That Christ consciousness that lives and shows up and moves and has its being in all of us. And so, just as we say Jesus the Christ, we could just as easily say Chris the Christ, or Kara the Christ, or Dean the Christ, or Ryan the Christ, or Kathy the Christ, or Elizabeth the Christ, or insert your own name here, the Christ. That you are that individualized expression of the infinite. And as you can see here, this Holy Trinity, there is no place where one of these things stops and the other one starts. Simultaneously, God is 100% infinite and 100% individualized. And getting to our last one, 100% intimate. So, intimate is the Holy Spirit in the traditional Christian Holy Trinity. And intimate is that relationship, that personal experience of God that we get to have. And yes, as we were talking about earlier in class, I do think that this is the one that Science of Mind most often leaves out. And I do think that that's detrimental because it's all important because we can't fathom any of it. And so we need all of the parts and pieces as a part of our experience to try to even catch a glimpse of what this thing is that is so much more in every single way than we could possibly fathom. And so often what happens is that science of mind focuses so much on God as this infinite thing that is everywhere, ever present, and God as me, God as you, that we miss out or lose that personal relationship that is available to us with the divine. And what's really, really beautiful is that we get to create what that looks like for us. That really, if in an ideal society, whatever that may mean, there would be 8 billion and however many different ways to practice, to be spiritual, to have a spirituality, because each and every one of us would create the divine in our own image. Um, philosopher whose name I am not going to remember used to say that horses have a god that look like a horse. And if you look around at the religions that are around us, we have gods that look like us. That's just naturally what we do. We create God in our image. And then we say that we're created in God's image, and we are, but also we don't really know what that means because we can't tap fully into ourselves because we are infinite. The deeper we go into ourselves, the more God we find. And we can't tap into the infinite outside of us. So yes, both of those things are true. And to have that intimate personal relationship with the divine, that that's the good juicy stuff where you get to make it up. That's where you get to call your infinite Bev or Earl or Steve or, Megatron 5000 or whatever it is, and you get to talk to it and have this experience and journal and listen to that which is greater than you in this visioning experience. I personally am not visioning with the infinite, I am, but I'm also visioning with my intimate experience of God. And that shifts around as I move and shift and grow and evolve. My idea of what God is and how God shows up and reveals itself to me moves and shifts and grows and evolves as well. And so all three of these aspects of the divine are so, so important to having a complete picture of spirituality. And so, what I invite you to do is, like I said, I feel like in Science of Minds, we're really quite good at God as infinite and God as individualized, God as all there is, and God as me. And we're not as good up here in the God is intimate with me, that I can have a relationship with it. And so take some time this week and figure out what kind of God would you want to be in relationship with? What would a relationship with the infinite individualized expression of spirit look like for you? What would it how would it show up? How would it support you? How would you be in relationship with infinity? I think it's a really interesting question. One of the things that I used to do, just as an example, and I might start doing it again because actually it was really helpful, is that I would make a to-do list for God. And I would put all of the things on there that I A, either didn't have time for, or B, weren't really mine to do anyways. And so if I was worrying heavily about something that was outside of my control, I'd put it on God's to-do list. And sometimes if the worrying was so intense that I couldn't really like get myself out of it, I was in this cycle of worry, I would put the worry on God's to-do list. Like, not only is it your job to find the perfect person to fill this position, and I'm really hoping it's me, but it's also your job to worry about this for me. That's the kind of personal relationship I want to have with an infinite, eternal, absolute being that's not a being, that's a thing, that's a consciousness, that's a we don't even know what. So, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your divine? That is the question to ask yourself as you ponder this holy Trinity. I love you all.